also presenting with me today is Baron Valdrick from Mercedes. No, oh my gosh, I just said a car name. It's been such a day as a parent. Can you say
Meridian.
it correctly? Mercedes?
Meridian. Yes.
Meridies. There it is. Okay, cool. All right. Hi guys, I'm Lady Somerled Ray. I come from the kingdom of Aitenvelt. Baron Valdrick comes from Meridies. This is a awesome presentation that between me, Baron Valdrick, Sir Neo, Araya from Outlands. Oh my gosh, there's so many people who contributed to this do and don'ts. To be honest, when we were interviewing different individuals for this particular class, I have to tell you, this PowerPoint could have been 20 or 30 slides long. But we would be here for too long. So we have a very concise list and we've got some things that we have to go through. So to begin this class, I want to preface everything that we were saying, please join us for the journey of learning how to welcome newcomers, okay? Because this is a journey, especially into a combat art, because there are extra things that we need to think about here that we don't have to think about with ANS. We don't have to think about generally with events and demos, right? Like for newcomers. You have an individual who has come to a practice and now we have some safety concerns that we need to deal with. And that's a different atmosphere that we need to navigate, okay? So all of the people who have contributed, we have Baron Valdrick on the left-hand side. We have Master Richard in the center. We have Sir Neo the Pict on the left. That's me at the very last, Somerled Ray. That's me. Cool. Okay, so here's our scenario. A newcomer comes to practice event demo. Now what? Right? The only difference is we know they're interested in a combat art. Okay, we know it. There's either been prior contact, they've said so, like we know it. So now what? Immediately we stop and we say, tell me your story. Okay, so even if they've talked to other people and they've told their story, I still want to know. Tell me your story. How did you go from your normal everyday life to being here and being interested in combat art? Like, come on, like, tell me. I want to know. Tell me all of the things, okay? And when they start to unpack their story, what interests them, right? What doesn't interest them? You're also going to be able to pick up on things to help you maintain respect and their boundaries as we integrate this newcomer into the SCA. Okay, so they've told you their story, and they're probably continuing to tell you and let this story of them and their journey unfold in front of you. So now we need to work on respecting their story as we go into the do's and don'ts of integrating newcomers into the combat arts. Okay, so if we do not respect their story, the do's and don'ts don't make sense. Okay, so this is the next mile marker on this journey. Okay, number one, we listen to their story. We don't interrupt. We internalize what they're saying as true for them. Okay, we listen. What are the hobbies that they have? Are there any SCA equivalencies within our combat arts? Or maybe they think they're really into combat art and maybe they're only into armor making, right? Oh, sort of strong, deviation into a different area. That's fine too. But we listen. We kind of make notes in our head. We listen to how do they identify as an individual? How do they identify in their relationship, possibly with the SCA, or in their relationship with combat arts, right? Which leads into how do they connect with blank, right? There are individuals who have joined the SCA specifically for the combat arts that are very different, right? I come from a background where I joined the SCA specifically to add another fight club to my week because I'm an avid martial artist. That is what I wanted to do. The medieval thing, that kind of came second. That's cool. History, yay, cool. That was something I adopted later. But for me, it was another fight club, and that was excellent. I know many individuals who are retired veterans of the military, and they gravitated to the SCA because of that. There are different ways that they connect with something. And listening to their story and understanding that connection for them is going to help you understand how to integrate them in a way that is respecting their journey and also being respectful of their boundaries. Okay. Next is a pool of guides. As chatelaines, we are responsible for helping to be a conduit. During my last class, there was this amazing suggestion of being a travel guide, right? Where we get to connect newcomers to guides, individuals who have elected to be approached by newcomers as a place to go for information. Okay. A question came up again during a previous class. Are all peers naturally guides? Nope, that's not true. Not all peers are guides. An individual must identify as yes and choose that they want to be a guide. They want to be approached by newcomers, or they want to be a point of contact for newcomers. Laurels and knights and Valdric, I'm missing one.
All
Pelicans.
knights, pelicans, masters of defense.
Right.
And in some kingdoms, all peers.
Perfect. There we go. See, thank you for keeping me minding my P's and Q's and crossing my T's and dotting my I's. All of those levels, right? Those elevated levels does not necessarily mean that they have opted in to participating with newcomers on such a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay. So they need to opt in. A guide can be somebody who's just super, super formal super interested and knows a lot about a particular subject. They might not be a Laurel. They may not be a Pelican yet, but they're very personable. They have said, yes, I'm totally willing to work with new people. They are respectful. They follow the standard guidelines within the SCA of being appropriate, right? Like, okay, that's right. And then the next thing about respecting their story is you follow up, right? So even if you do connect them with a guide, even if they do show up to practice, like, you're paying attention to them by following up with them, just checking in. Hey, I see that you're doing, gosh, you're out there, you're doing a great job, or I see you watching. That's excellent. How you been? What, do you have any questions? Like, gosh, how was this week going on? Right? You're just following up with them and learning from their pace of communication when following up needs to be, right? Some people really enjoy having communication every couple of days. Some people, maybe it's once a week, but following up makes it such that they know they feel wanted, needed. We are actively interested in them as an individual. We are interested in their story, and we want to see them. Okay. Next, instead of electing newcomers to do things, we need to have them join us in the beginning so that they can feel comfortable, right? So instead of, hey, you're new into Rapier, that's really cool. Why don't you go over there, pick up that sword, and then, go tap that knight on the shoulder and see what you want to do. Okay, that could be a lot for a newcomer, right? Especially if this is the first or second, fighter practice. However, changing that phrase a little bit and changing the intent to, hey, would you like to join me while I go take a look at this, really cool rapier sword? And I want to go over and talk to this knight. You want to join me while I go do that? Or, hey, and this one came from Cernio. Would you like to come and watch while I learn how to do this thing from this person? And please feel free to chime in and ask questions, right? The reason why this is here on respecting their story is traditionally older generations of chatelaines before us, there was this expectation that participation led recruitment, right? And so you would get newcomers into things as quick as possible. And to a certain extent, that's not inherently wrong, but there's this hump, this milestone of anxiety and being overwhelmed, and this level of ambiguity of not knowing what to do that you would have to overcome as a new person. But if you were to join someone while they do that hump disappears, right? Instead of asking a new person, hey, go stand with the crown over there in the back of their court holding this sword, you've just given them this thing that is in front of other people. There's a duty to perform. There might be a power dichotomy or disparity too, because they want to be there and be liked and integrated, right? Like they may say yes, even though inside they may not really want to. But if you were to say, hey, I'm going to go stand guard, or I'm going to go participate in court with this, would you like to join me while I do? Then they have more of a space to say yes or no. They can vicariously experience it while next to you. They can ask questions, and it builds their confidence so that the next time you can be like, hey, that time that I held that sword in court and you were with me, would you like to do that this time? Okay. It preserves them having their own space to make their own decisions. Okay. Now, this is very, very important as the last part of this slide. We need to respect their need for safety, which means that even though there is an SCA standard for armor, if individuals approach us and they want more armor, and that is what would make them feel comfortable, that's great. If they have specific conditions that they want to work on with regards to practicing in their physical space, that's okay. If they have a specific mental space that they need to be in to participate in combat arts for safety, that's fine. Now, let me give you an example of that, right? The armor one is pretty self-explanatory. If somebody comes in and they have an injury that was already on an arm and they just don't want to aggravate it again, and they feel that a specific armor would cover a part, even though it is above the SCA standard, that's okay. That is their need to have that armor piece. It is our responsibility to meet them at that need and to embrace and be like, and accept that. Like, yeah, that's a great idea. Sure. If that's what you feel like you need, let's do it. Yeah. Okay. Physical space. When newcomers start in combat arts, the need for safety in a physical space, it can come in so many forms. But the prototypical idea is newcomers genuinely probably don't want to be right next to two knights absolutely having it out, full combat speed, 100%, effort. That whole area, that whole space, right? You may want to be aside it. Maybe a couple of yards away, maybe 4 yards away, right? Just a safe space where they don't have to, their eyes aren't drawn to the super fast, super flashy stuff, so that they have a safe space to learn. Okay. Another way that this can manifest itself is defining their own physical space that can be hit. Newcomers, there is a large degree of individuals and people that we interact with every day. They may have no prior experience in combat. And so when a newcomer comes up and they say, hey, I'm really interested in this, and then you start to unpack their story and they say something similar to, boy, I just want to practice this one strike. I think that would be kind of cool. Maybe that's how I get into it. That's them setting a boundary for physical space. Okay, so they only want to practice one strike, possibly to one location on their body or on another person's body, or maybe even on a pel would probably be even better way to suggest it first. That does not mean that they have given permission to do a full-on pickup where all of the strikes will be allowed, right? Like you have to meet them at what they say that they're comfortable with. So physical space can be them specifically saying, hey, I've got back stuff. I don't want to be hit on the back, and I kind of want to go slow so that I can really see what's going on. Okay, cool. We meet them at that level, at that boundary of physical space. Okay. Mental space. When someone shows up to practice or a demo or an event and they're a newcomer, if you know that they're interested in fighting, even if they bring their armor, we cannot assume that they are in the mental space to fight. We can ask them. We can be like, hey, I'm going to use my husband's name because I love him dearly, and I think he's a really good ambassador for this level of respect with fighters. Hey, Cullen Ellis, I see you brought your armor. Are you interested in fighting today, or are you just thinking about it? Okay, whatever they say, that is the correct mental space for them. If they say in 5 minutes they've changed the mind, that is also correct. If they say in 15 minutes after getting fully armed up, geared up, all of the armor is on, that they don't want to do it anymore, guess what? That is also correct. And I know that that's sometimes really hard for some of the pros in combat arts to hear. But meeting them at their mental space, not being judgmental, and accepting them at whatever level they are will 100% lead for them to have fun, right? Because there is no judgment of, oh, you got fully armored up and you decided you didn't want to go hit people. Okay, cool. No biggie. Would you like to work on armor? Or hey, do you want to hear some jokes? Or, tell me what's going on with you right now. Okay. It's more about having fun and playing, right? I think, Valdrick, I remember when you and I were talking before, you had such an emphasis on we want to get people suited up and safely ready to go play to whatever level of play they want to play. I think I probably changed your words a little bit. I apologize, but what would you like to add there?
So I want to compliment you on the. So first off, let me take a step back. This one is very near and dear to my heart. This conversation specifically is a bit of a curveball for me because I've been in armor for 30 years. The vast majority of that 30 years, probably 17, 18 years of that time, I've been a marshal. And I've also always had the soft spot in my heart for the person walking in, because about the third time in armor, I had a poor experience that came very close of me leaving the society. Not to take up too much time, we can cover that story later, but had that happened, I would not know my wife. I would not own my house. I would not have met the vast majority of the best people in my life, and I would not have had the majority of the happiness that I have. So this one is going to be hard for me to answer as a knight or as a chatelaine, because I've had both of those and have a very specific love for this situation. As a chatelaine, following up with people and going with them is a very big thing for me, because if you were to get a job and someone told you, go down to this address and meet this site superintendent and he will tell you your job, that's going to be rough. A human resources person wouldn't do that. They would take you and introduce you to the line. You would be seen, you would be shown the environment you're going to work in. So from a chattelaine's point of view, that is one of the things with all of the different things we do in the society. It's going to be very intimidating to send somebody to this titled person and then them just go and have a great time. So become aware of who in those organizations are the go-to people. Duke Count so-and-so might not be the best person or might be the best person to talk to a new person, but a lot of new people come in with being read in to sci-fi, to fantasy, to movies, and Duke and Count and Sir can mean a lot different to that person than what we think of, because we've played D&D with these folks. We've gone to the movies with these folks. So then when you get to the practice, and now I unfortunately have to switch gears more to the knight and the marshal section of this. When I'm looking at a new person, listen to them. Yes, absolutely. Let's not talk about how many wars I've been in. Let's not talk about how much my armor costs. I want to know. I want to get a conversation going with them. We talked earlier about body language. We talked about noticing how a person reacts, and basically read the person you're talking to. I tend to find that a lot of times in your fighting, in your martial, you're running into somebody that is either gung ho and ready to get in armor. If that's their bailiwick, I got a pile of armor sitting here. Um, I can't advise this to everyone, but I am going to I am going to say that 4 weeks ago at air practice, we had an influx of new people. There was 10 people on the floor in armor. 8 of them was in armor because of armor I own. I have purchased a lot of armor from people leaving the society. I tend to hold on to it for a year and a day, and if they come back, your armor's sitting right there. Give me my money back, and if not, we're going to put this in new people's armor. I just do that because it's easier for me to collect and throw in the shed outside, and I can take 2 and 3 and 4 newbies at a time, throw them into a pile of armor, bring them come back out, and we start adjusting, making lots specifically for a person, make sure it's safe, make sure it's a good starting point. Um, and but then you also have the person that wants to talk about being in armor and has never seen anything about that. Hey, why don't we sit around and feel free to ask questions, pick up the gear. You want to watch some rounds, throw out suggestions there for them and see what they start to perk up at. A person that comes in and we have people all the time that come in, they hear fighting and they're thinking anime. Well, we're a little bit different than that. There's nothing wrong with what they want. That might very well bring them in here. Let's instead of throwing them in armor and letting them think that they're going to automatically just be, let's let them watch a few bouts. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about sufficient force. I also see a lot of people coming in that have never had any kind of physical activity like this. So a lot of times I might try just letting them swing a sword. Me being armor, let them strike. There's some training classes that I have that I've created to give people the extreme basics of what you would need to be able to fight. You don't have to be in armor to be in those basics. One of the first things that I have found that has empowered a lot of people in their thought about fighting is hitting someone hard enough. So I actually, usually in a 101 class, teach anybody force generation, how to throw a real blow. In that definition, I have shown 9-year-old girls how to throw a killing blow.
Yeah.
And the
Just
light. Yes.
sorry, go for it. I was just going to say that I know that hopefully Sir Neo will join us, but Sir Neo and there's quite a lot of others who do that same thing too, where it's just to help people feel empowered, but also safe. They get armored up, and it's a okay. You hit me the way that you feel safe to hit me first, right? And
Right.
then they work through slowly over time, amping that up. And I just wanted to point out that it's not just you who does that, because that's such an amazing way to walk someone through that,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And to support that safe mental space, that safe physical space. Because part of combat arts is learning how to control your space, and learning how to explore how do you control and respectfully interact in a combat space, right? Speaking of Sir Neo, hi Sir Neo. Oh, I think you're muted. That's okay. I think Master Fergus might need to unmute you. There you are.
Here I am.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. We were actually Baron Valdrick, if it's okay with you, I think we're going to move on to the next slide, which I believe will be the dues, so that we can be on time. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Sweet. All right, Sir Neo, we're about to embark on the dues for newcomers into the combat arts, right? So do listen to their experience, right? Baron Valdrick was talking about how it's super important to listen to not only where they are but where they've come from, with regards to their experience, because it's also going to give you some big cues onto what they're comfortable with and where they're going to start out. Do listen to their identity and what level of participation they are comfortable with. Baron Valdrick, you had an amazing example about, there are things that could draw people to the combat arts where it could be anime related, it could be Xena, it could be Tomb Raider, right? There's so many ways that they come that their level of participation could be, in their mind, something very different, and they need to navigate and make those decisions on their own. Do be aware of who is on the field and who is not on the field. So here's what I mean when we get into this. When you have a newcomer who comes to practice, it is important to be aware of, are they as an individual, who they identify as, are they represented in the fighters who are out there as well? Because that can be very intimidating. Okay. If they are an individual who has identified their gender, if they're non-gender, gender fluid, an ethnic minority, or part of the LGBT community, or if they have a disability, or however they word it, an ability shift of some form, it could be very hard to empower them, you think, because if you're looking out on the field, they don't see any representation of themselves. And so knowing that and seeing that and listening to their story would be a way of helping to empower them to get on that field. For the first three, let me finish that top one a little bit, or I'm sorry, middle one. When you do notice that there is a discrepancy between representation on who is and is not on the field, and do they feel comfortable with participating, it is super important to find a representative guide, right? So find a guide who can connect and help them feel represented in the art that they want to do, the combat art that they want to do. So in the first three do's, I know that, gosh, Sir Neo, Baron Valdrick, I know you guys have really good examples of what this looks like. So I'm going to kind of pass it back and forth between you guys. I'm going to pick on you first, Sir Neo. I know that you and I had talked previously that there have been times in the SCA where individuals who either they have a wheelchair or they identify differently, where you've really focused on the, yes, you want to participate, great, let's work on making that safe. Can you talk about one or two of those examples?
Yeah. Easily, sometimes people have had previous injuries that they are vocal about, and that helps everyone. Injuries that maybe, they had a long time ago, but they're afraid of re-injuring or having that weak point. We do things like, awesome, that doesn't keep you from doing this. So let's make sure you're armored up correctly, or maybe even more armored. Say it was an ankle break from who knows how long ago, and you're worried about that. Awesome. Let's make sure you are wearing some sturdy boots and greaves. Let's make sure, you're protected well. Sorry, that was my little girl.
No sorry needed. That's the most important job right there.
And then that's an easy one. So like previous injuries, making sure that we're addressing that and making sure they feel safe to do what we're doing. Other things is like representation. Since I've been in the SCA, when I first started, obviously in my first like 6 or 7 years, I only played in Kingdom. So I only saw people who were in Kingdom. And representation for, things like gender, non-gender, gender fluid, and ethnic minorities. It's small here, but it exists, right? And then I started going to out of kingdom events, and it's actually, at least in my experience, it's actually pretty vast. So the thing I really enjoy about that part is like, oh, cool, you want to talk to other people who maybe are non-gender or gender fluid. Awesome. I've met a few, or at least I've seen a few online, and let me send you their direction so you can ask some extremely specific questions. And that's the thing is like, I guess I'll use this phrase as a peer. When people come to you with questions maybe you don't have the answer to, you've got to be malleable and be very, very open to directing them in the right direction. Like we're all humans too, so we have to make sure we're like, oh, awesome, I don't have the answer to everything, but I know someone who might have that specific answer, and I'm going to direct you this way. So for me, I guess at least being welcoming and being very open to discussing whatever their needs are as far as safety or representation or anything along those lines. It's easy to get caught up in thinking, oh, I should have this answer. But the reality is, like I said, we're all human. We don't have all the answers. So just being open to knowing, oh, hey, I don't have the answer to that, but I know someone who does, and maybe even they're out of kingdom, or maybe even they're, XYZ. You just have to be really open to pointing people in the right direction and making sure they see that they are being heard and, I mean, honestly, cared for on a very general level.
Yeah, yeah. And that easily then comes off as being valued, and where we want to need their participation, but really value and respect is really what that boils down to, and I agree 100%. Baron Valdrick, would you like to add anything for the first three do's?
Yes, actually. Again, safety is always an important. We absolutely, as marshals, as knights, as experienced fighters, it's absolutely our responsibility to not break our toys, old or new. We want to be able to do this for the long run. On the aspect of representation on the field, I have a certain amount of answer for this. In Meridies, we're the South, and this has actually been something that's been dealt with for a long time with female fighters, because there is a lot of growing up in this area where you don't strike a lady, you don't mistreat a lady, and it is bred into the genes here. So this is something that I have a personal answer for. It may not be for everyone, but when I'm looking at a new person and they're looking for representation on the field, everyone is their reputation on the field, their representation. Everyone on that field is a warrior. When you put that armor on, you are a warrior. If you are at my fighter practice, I'm there for you as the marshal. I'm there for you as the experienced fighter, and you are a warrior. My drill sergeant, and I'm going to go old school on this a little bit. My drill sergeant looked around and said, I don't see white, I don't see yellow, I don't see Mexican, I don't see black, I see green. And I've kept that in my heart. My warriors, my people, my tribe, you walk in that door, you are part of my people, you're part of my family. And everyone on that field should be a support to you, should be a help to you, should be training to you. And from giving you these basic skills, you are to be able to stand toe to toe with them. You're to be standing wall to wall with them in the shield wall, in the tournament, wherever you want to go. It's our responsibility to help you learn that. And I completely agree that there are questions and specific things that deal with specific injuries that you've had, specific gender questions. And I absolutely agree that that is the same answer. I don't know is actually a spectacular answer, because when you're dealing with a new person and you're saying, I don't know, but I'll find you the answer, it shows them a way of doing things instead of just giving them your answer. it helps them find their own answer. So I also suggest that in the fighting, in any of it, even in arts, even in the science, if you have interest in it, you're part of it. Now it's our responsibility to help you find your blossoming in your chosen field.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I also think, leveraging I don't know, and leveraging just being honest, and having newcomers watch you on your journey to finding out that information with them. That's also a trust building, right? You can trust what we are doing and help, and you can trust and know for certain that we are truly thinking about your questions, your value. We respect you to the point that we're not going to try to just answer it, even though we don't know. We're genuinely going to go look for you, right? Like there's an extra level of you're important enough to us that this is what we want to go do for you, right? Like saying we don't know and then tracking it down. Like that's on so many levels, it's so important. And thank you both. I really, really do appreciate those examples and that really great clarification and concrete experiences there. Next up, we have do use yes. Let's figure it out and make it safe. Right? There's a lot of examples where newcomers throw curveballs, right? Into fighter practice or into any of the combat arts. Maybe some of those curveballs is, hey, I want to be a combat archer, but I'm also in a wheelchair. That's a thing. That is a real experience that a person has had that I have been told about, and they actually were able to do it. Like they were able to make it safe, and they participated in a war environment. Wonderful. But you have to have the perspective and the motivation, the drive to answer their motivation, to meet them at their level with, wow, that's a really great idea. I see where you're coming with that. Let's make it safe, right? Within the confines and the bounds of making it safe, right? Like I'm not saying that if somebody suggests, building a trebuchet with a bunch of razors in it, the answer is no. Absolutely. We're all about to, we all need to be safe. We're not doing that. But if somebody was like, hey, I definitely want to learn how to use a hammer at practice, and I want to build a hammer. Or maybe I don't want to fight with a sword right now. Like, how do I do that? How do I make an SCA hammer and then do that? And gosh, recently in my home barony, the barony of Sundragon, just a few nights ago, there was someone labeled, shield smasher with a hammer that, the knights, Cernio being one of them, and maybe the one who helped make it safe, helped encourage this individual to not only feel comfortable, but confident in making a hammer and then learning how to use it within the confines of the safety of the rules of the SCA. And so it's a really good example of that. Okay. Next, we have do engage with active listening and accept them for their level. Okay, whatever that level is that they come in with, or whatever level they are at now, we accept them for that. Mm-hmm. We accept them for their learning style. Not everyone learns the same. Somebody may need to go through something 1,000 or 4,000 times, or maybe less. Maybe their learning style is slow, and then they slowly, increase speed or power over time. Okay. We accept them for their process, whatever that looks like to them, their process. We accept them with no judgment as they work on their process to achieving their goals within the combat arts. Okay. So a good example of their process is there are individuals who they could really want to be a fighter, a warrior, right? And they've declared it such. They're showing up to practice. They're talking to the right people, but they have things that they're working on inside to maybe really accomplish that. Like maybe helmets make them feel claustrophobic. Maybe the strapping, they have some sensory concerns where the strapping or what they're wearing underneath armor are truly bothering them while they while they continue on their path, right? So their process is as important as their level and their learning style to respect. And if we push back on their process or their learning style or their level, you're going to create a negative space for them, because in a form, you're rejecting them entirely. Everyone in the SCA, because this is all volunteer, they participate on the level that they want to participate in 100% of the time. And so we need to be respectful and accepting of whatever that level is. The last one, and we've talked about this so much, I'm not going to get into it, but we leveraged loaner gear. When I was interviewing Master Richard, and he was also contributing to this list, the first thing that he said was, it needs to happen more where some of the more seasoned pros that we have, like Baron Valdrick, you had even said, there are times we take off our armor and we give it to the new person just for that and be like, you go off and play. Go play. I want to see you out there play. I want you to try new things, right? And so we leverage what we have, what the Barony has. Loaner gear is amazing. If you don't have the gear, then find the guide, right? And be creative in that. So, Sir Neo, Baron Valdrick, do you guys have anything that you would like to talk about with the last three do's? Do use yes, let's figure it out. Do engage with active listening and acceptance on multiple points, and then do leverage loaner gear.
Valdrick, did you want to go first?
I can't. Thank you very much. Pretty much, I completely agree. We're looking at just how do we make a contact? How do we make their wants into reality? And from my experience in the SCA, I can't hold it important enough. The loaner gear is not the answer to everyone being able to fight, but it's the answer to everyone that has a want to try. It's that opportunity. And it's sometimes a new person will find something that they might not think is that they're treating as a crutch, but it will hold them up. A lack of armor, a lack of somebody taking the time to fit it for them, to put a chin strap in it the right way, to make sure it has enough padding, to get that extra bit of armor over that piece that ankle that they're worried about. Personally, I see a world of difference from when I started. It took me a year to get armor together to fight. And there was a couple of guys that would let me borrow their armor, but there was a feeling that I was keeping them from the field. And having enough armor laying around to put somebody, it may look horrible, it may look terrible, it may be covered in duct tape, but it gave them that time to find out for themselves. It also let them ask the question, do they want to spend money on this thing? One of the big things that I strongly suggest, tell people from the start, don't spend money, because that fear of buying the wrong thing can be outlandishly terrifying. And worse yet, buying the thing that looks great, you bring it to practice and somebody has to say, nope, you're going to get your head crushed if you put that on your head and go out there. But also the camaraderie that a lot of people get from that quiet time at someone's house, or that hour before fighter practice, or even just that experienced person taking their armor off and saying, look, I can fight without this today. So yeah, having loaner armor, outstandingly, a big plus for getting a new person into their martials, into their martial games. And that's the same with Rapier. It's the same with Cut+Thrust, live weapons. If your group doesn't have it, contact people. And if your group needs armor, we'll put my contact information and we can talk afterwards. I will help you get armor. I will help you find cheap alternatives. Played Again Sports just opened up a spot in my town. I can get you legs and knees for heavy fighting that's good enough for most kingdoms, or at least a good starting point. So get people in armor.
Sir Neil?
Yeah, I was gonna say from kind of the same story, but when I started, it was very difficult to get my hands on. Well, at the very least, comfortable loaner gear that didn't make me dread putting it on to go get beat up. When I was first very starting out, I was like, man, not only is this uncomfortable, I'm getting my freaking lights put out. So, I guess the cool part in seeing that part of the SCA grow is not only are people, I mean, truly far more helpful than, like I've seen the at least in Aidenville, like specifically in Aidenville, I have seen the fighter community become more inclusive as far as helping new fighters get into armor, get going, and even have holding classes on building armor that will get them on the field. I do some project / armor nights at my own house sometimes on Friday nights, and it's been huge. I just recently got one of my squires a full set of armor real quick, and it was just me shooting messages out to people. Hey, do you have extra armor? Do you mind parting with it? Do you have an elbow that you happen to not need anymore? Do you have, and kind of collecting that gear. And some people are, oh, I've been playing 30 years and I haven't used these legs in 10 years. So I'm going to go ahead and donate those to, XYZ loaner armor for the barony, or, this, that, or the other. Seeing the growth on that part of the fighting community has been really, really awesome. And honestly, very uplifting. The big thing we've run into recently is just the little odds and ends that we may or may not have available if a new person shows up. It's like we got a whole kit except a helmet, or we have a whole kit except they don't got elbows, or we have a whole kit except they don't got knee cops. And it keeps people who are, oh, hey, I would really love to kind of just get in armor and go check it out, have a firsthand experience with it to see, how it makes me feel. And sometimes, at least that I've noticed in the few years I've played, I started in 2008, but at least in my experience, I have seen somebody who's new show up and be extra excited and pumped up, and they want to throw on that kit. And then because they can't do it, they kind of, their fire dies a little. And then maybe, oh, we can't make it work by next week, and their fire dies a little more. And because I've seen that happen, I really try to get on top of it and help them to network and get a working kit so that they can jump out on that field. Because and again, that all varies. Some people are like, hey, I want to get a whole kit on and just go experience this, and I don't have any days of training or anything. Cool. Not everyone is like that. Some people are like, oh, hey, I want to go hit Pell practice for a month before I ever put the armor on. And I'm like, awesome. Also available, things like that. Like, I'll repeat it again. It's especially with, marshals or peers in the fighting world, being malleable and being open to directing people and helping them network and just making them feel and letting them know, like, yeah, we care. If 100 people came up to me on one of our fighter practices and they had never even heard of the SCA and they all wanted to get in armor, guess what? I'm about to make a whole lot of phone calls. I'm going to try to get as many of them in armor or Pell practice or whatever they can get in as absolutely fast as I can. And to be fair, I could tell you right now, probably only take me about a week to get at least half of them outfitted. Because when we get a large group of people that are like, hey, we're really excited about this, we want to do it now, it's pretty easy to get people motivated to help bring in new people, at least in my experience. This is all obviously just,
Right.
individual experience.
Right. And thank you so much, Cernio and Baron Valdrick. If it's okay with you guys, I think we're going to move on to the don'ts. I know we're running really low on time. I just texted the moderator. We're clear to go till 5, but that does mean we have 9 minutes. So
No.
Oh.
5 till.
Oh, 5 till.
Sorry.
Okay. That's okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you for the clarification.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I see in the comments that they have questions about. I see Antigone and Celia had questions in the comments.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. I have not been able to take a look at the chat.
Mm-hmm. One of the comments was, I can hear everyone is equal and we should all be able to do the things equally, but that seems diminutive when the topic is about seeing ourselves on the field.
I could definitely understand that. I think when we were talking about it, what might have gotten missed is when we have individuals who could be standing on the sidelines anxious about not participating because they may not see representation inside the field. It is our responsibility to help empower them and bridge that gap so that they feel empowered, that regardless of what they see on the field, anyone can participate at any time. But we have to be aware that, if a whole group of individuals show up, but then there's like 5 or 6 people standing on the side, and to be honest, it could be one, it doesn't matter. We have to take notice of that one person who's standing on the sideline who wants to participate, but for some reason, part of their story may be holding them back on participating. And that reason could be one of the bullet points, but it also could be a number of other things. It is our responsibility to empower that person and help them get them on the field. So we're not intending the message to be harmful in any way. One of the keys here is when you are aware of who is on the field and who is not, then you need to take notice of who's not on the field, and again, be a detective of enthusiasm, right? And really identify why. Right? Why, if you want to be on the field, why are you not? And then how do we fix that? And how do we get you there? Because everyone should be empowered to be on that field if they want to be. And that's why one of the do's is, yes, let's figure it out. Let's make sure it's safe. Let's go.